Okay, good morning. Today is the 12th day of Iyar, and it's the 3rd of May, and we're going to be looking at the fourth reading of Parashat Emor. And this reading, all of it, and then some tomorrow also, deals with the different special days in the Hebrew calendar. And it starts out with a general statement that reads something like this. I'll read it in the English. It says, God spoke to Moses saying, we're reading from chapter 23 in Leviticus, verse 1. God spoke to Moses saying, speak to the Israelites and say to them, with regard to God's appointed holy days, the ones that you will designate as designated holy occasions, these are my appointed days. So the translation doesn't do a lot of service to the meaning. The meaning is actually that this commandment is the commandment to create the calendar. What does exactly that mean? It means that the Sanhedrin, the court, was given the power to decide on the structure of the calendar, basically. And how does this happen? It is related to two things. One thing is intercalating a year. Intercalating a year means that the Sanhedrin has the power to add a 13th month, a 13th lunar month into the solar year. In other words, some out of every 19 years, 7 of them have 13 months and not 12 as usual. The calendar that's used mostly in the world today is the one that was based on the Christian calendar, and it is only solar. On the other hand, and when it's only solar, there are exactly 365 and a quarter days every year, and that's why every 4 years you add a fourth day, and then I think every year that ends with 2 zeros, you take off that, you don't add that additional day, which is, I believe, is March 29th. So the calendar remains connected to the seasons of the year. March will always be the spring, and June, July will always be the summer, and September will always be the fall, and December will always be the winter. The Muslim calendar is based only on lunar months, meaning every time the moon completes a revolution around the earth. For that reason, their their year keeps shifting. So Ramadan, which is their most important month of the year, it shifts through the seasons because the lunar year, or 12 lunar months, are about 11 days shorter than the full solar year. So if a full solar year is 365 days, the lunar 12 months would be about 354 days. The Jewish calendar takes into account both. So to prevent things from moving too far awry, every 19 years there are 7 years that have 13 months. The decision when to do this, when to add a 13th month, and then of course all the holidays move, is a decision that is up to the Sanhedrin. They decide. In addition, when the first day of the month is also decided by the Sanhedrin. It's also decided by the court of law. And so they need to accept testimony from witnesses who saw the birth of the new moon. And then they declare the day on which they saw it as the first day of the new month. And if no one saw it, then they actually make 2 days of the new month, 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, as we call it. The day when it wasn't seen is called the 30th day of the previous month, and the next day after that is the first day of the new month. These two decisions that they make allow them to define the calendar. In other words, if they decide that, let us say, today is the theoretically, right? Today is the first day of the year, first day of Tishrei, the first month. Then 10 days after that, it will be Yom Kippur. And that's an incredible power. After that, 4 days later, it will be Sukkot. And so on. They define the calendar. So basically what God is saying is, I'm giving you the power to define when the holidays are. Now, that doesn't seem to be like that much power. I mean, they're just making the calendar. But let me read to you how this is explained, how this verse, these words are explained in the Talmud. The Talmud says to this, Rabbi Akiva said to him, my teacher, allow me to say before you one matter that you yourself once taught me. He said to him, speak. He said to him, it states with respect to the festivals, the appointed seasons of the Lord which you shall proclaim them to be sacred convocations. This is a different translation of the same verse that we just translated. The second verse of our reading today. What does it mean you shall proclaim them? The word them in Hebrew is otam. And it is written, these are the appointed seasons of the Lord, sacred convocations, you shall proclaim them in their... And it is written, these are the appointed seasons of the Lord. It repeats this 3 times. Look at this. It's in chapter 23, in verse 2, in verse 4, and verse 37. Why did it have to repeat this? That God is giving the Sanhedrin, the court of law, the power to define the calendar 3 times. So says Rabbi Akiva, this comes to teach you, you are authorized to determine the date of the new month, even if you unwittingly establish the new moon on the wrong day. You have that power. You, atem, you, even if you do so intentionally. Meaning, what is he saying? He's saying, in the verse, the word is otam, and we read it as if it's atem. Meaning, you have the power to define them, but we read it as if it's you have the power to define atem, you. Again, telling you, again, you. Even if it's unwittingly, meaning a mistake, even if it is intentionally a mistake, it's not a mistake, it was intentionally they changed the date. They sanctified the new moon on the wrong day, not the first day of the month. You, even if you are misled by false witnesses, or even if they are led to believe that this was the first day of the new month and it wasn't. In all cases, once the court establishes the day is the new moon, it is sanctified, and God grants his consent. So this was an incredible thing. Why did Rabbi Akiva say this? He said this to Rabbi Yoshua. There was a dispute in the Sanhedrin in that year, and the head of the Sanhedrin, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, he received testimony, and he decided that the first day of the year would be that particular day when he heard that testimony. But Rabbi Yeshua was sitting in the court. He was one of the Sanhedrin. He disagreed. He said, this is a false testimony. They're misleading us. And so he said, what the court decided is wrong. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, the head of the Sanhedrin, he said to Rabbi Yeshua, I order you to come on the day that Yom Kippur is according to your reckoning, which would be a day later. I order you to come on that day before the court with your staff, which is forbidden from being carried on Yom Kippur, and with your purse, and with your money. 2 things that are not permitted. And Rabbi Yeshua did it in order not to rebel against the Sanhedrin. But Rabbi Akiva then said to him, you should know that even though, according to you, they made a mistake, God consecrates it. God agrees with it. And this is an incredible idea. What is it exactly saying? So in Chassidus, this is explained as follows. There's a concept that the lawmakers, rather, the person who dedicates himself to God's word, who dedicates himself to following God, but in the sense of teaching others. He's called a Rabban. He's called a teacher. And it says about them, Man Malchei Rabbanan. Who are the kings? The teachers. What does he mean by the kings? He says that when they decide that the reality is one way or another, God goes along with it. He will even change nature. We don't have time now to give an example, but there are examples in which the decision that today or tomorrow is the first of the month changes a reality in the physical world. This mitzvah, this commandment to sanctify the new moon, was actually the first commandment that Moses was given in Egypt. And now God is revealing that even if you make a mistake, even if you on purpose change it, I'll go along with it. What does it mean that I'll go along with it? That I will allow you to define the course of nature, as it were. What is it saying? It's saying that the covenant between the Jewish people and God is such that God decided to give us the power to lead nature, to control nature even, in order to fulfill His commandments. And this is the special power of the connection between a person who studies and is engaged in Torah and is engaged in teaching it to others, and nature, that he stands above it, able to actually change its course, make it bend to his will, even when he does it unwittingly, he made a mistake, even if he does it on purpose. Because that is the power of the Torah over nature. And one who is bound and connected to the Torah has this special power over nature. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.